Shah Fakir, Hindu ka Guru, Musalman ka Peer.
They are absolutely divine.
Discrimination, there was superstition, there was oppression. He describes it as the age of darkness.
Kirt Karo, Naam, Japo, and Chakho.
It has been true, it will remain true. Man has to go through this existence.
He's one with the divine.
Sometimes he wore a necklace of bones.
To do good, to be righteous, to do the right thing.
Your feet are pointing towards the house of God.
Okay.
So he was against renunciation.
The guest on my show today is Ambassador Navtej Sarna. Ambassador Sarna is a former ambassador to the United States of America. He was also the ambassador to Israel and the High Commissioner to the United Kingdom. Since his retirement from the Indian Foreign Service, he's spending a lot of his time writing novels and short stories. One of his books, Crimson Spring, has won him the Sahitya Academy Award 2025 in the English language. The Crimson Spring is based on year 1919 Jallianwala Bagh massacre in Amritsar in India. Welcome, Ambassador Sarna.
Thank you.
Delighted to have you on board.
Thank you.
And congratulations on your recent win.
Thank you.
How does it feel to be a Sahitya Academy Award winner?
It's very humbling.
Yeah.
It's a really a very prestigious award. The Sahitya Academy is a very prestigious institution. And I feel very humbled that they found this book and chose it and gave it the award. It's also a sort of personal satisfaction attached to it because both my parents got the Sahitya Academy Award.
Oh, wow.
So it is in many ways it rounds off a lot of things.
So I had read that they were writers, but I hadn't realized. So I thought it's part of your DNA and growing up and writing. But to be in that league and lineage, brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, in the current geopolitical climate, given your term as ambassador to 2 out of the 3 countries that are in war these days, Israel, US and Iran, we should really be talking about that. However, I would love to talk about a happier subject, and none better than Nanak, who is my favorite saint out of the 2 that I have, the other being Shirdi Sai Baba. So I'm delighted that I read your book, Nanak, such a befitting name. So let's start from scratch. Who was Nanak and what was his role in Sikhism?
Well, Nanak, as you yourself said, was a saint. But I think if you want to expand on that, then he was one of the most highly accomplished souls that has actually walked on this earth.
Right.
And certainly in India. A great philosopher, a poet of very high standing, and a spiritual leader who came as a divine messenger on this earth. Not to propagate any particular faith or to decry any other faith, but to answer the need of the times. And the need of the times was that, mankind was really suffering. When I talk of Indian society of that time, there was discrimination, there was superstition, there was oppression.
He was in the Mughal era, wasn't it?
He was actually spent most of his life in the Lodi. So it was not a question of one religion oppressing another. It was a question of oppression of various kinds. There was oppression of the ruling class against the non-ruling class, no matter what faith they were. There was oppression of religious charlatans who had become the gatekeepers between normal people and God. And there were holy men, so-called holy men, God men. There was he describes it as the age of darkness.
Not quite different these days, but yeah.
Well, perhaps there's a need for another divine messenger.
Yes.
But he described it as the age of darkness, when, the guardians of society were actually beginning to destroy the society.
Right.
So his coming was like a ray of light. When Nanak was born, there was light. And, and the evil began to run away. And he brought in a fresh message of equality, a fresh message of what is the true nature of man, what is the true purpose of human life, what is the nature of creator, and what is the nature of creation, and how should man relate to it? What is the role of women?
I was going to say he's quite a champion for women's rights.
He was.
And
He was.
wanted equal status
He was.
for them.
It was a particularly bad time for women. Not that everything has changed till now, but
far worse.
Far worse. And he, particularly in his experience towards the end of his life, of Babur's invasion of India. And he describes it, this is one of the few things of historical context of that time on which you find Nanak's own writing.
Right.
The hymns that are contained in this composition of the Babar Vani describe the rape and the pillage of the invading army. And that's particularly evocative of the state of women. So if you see he gave a great standing to women, to family, to marriage.
There was a section in in Babar Vani, Asadivar.
No, Asadivar is a different composition.
Okay, where he talks about women.
That is
specifically dedicated to women.
That is a verse there which everybody talks about. Yes,
Yeah. In your opinion, does Sikhism also view him the same way as you do, in terms of that he's a messenger of God, a saint, and a guru? Is that how they see it?
Yes, he's seen as that. I mean, there is always a tendency to simplify religion. So you begin to worship the Guru himself.
That was my point.
Yes, but it is in a sense of a Guru, very holy saint, who explains to us what is the divine creator. Who is the divine creator? What is the nature of creation? He says he's the one, the eternal, Ik Onkar, Satnam. The true is his name.
Yes.
It has been true, it will remain true. Yes. And how can you realize him? Through his grace only can you realize him. So, you have to understand also that he is also seen as the founder of the Sikh faith. So with him began a tradition of believers in this way of life, a way of life which had certain teachings, certain values, certain priorities, and this went on through 10 gurus. And all their teachings now are contained in the Granth Sahib, which there is no human guru in Sikhism. So in that way, the formalization of the religion goes back to Guru Nanak.
So after 10 gurus, they now regard the holy book.
It is because it contains the writings of the 5 gurus and the 9th guru.
Right.
And it also contains the writings of a large number of other holy men, both Sufis and Bhakti saints, whose thought and views on spiritual matters coincided with these views. You have Baba Sheikh Farid, you have Kabir, you have Namdev, you have so many others.
He met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as well.
Yes, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there is supposed to have been a meeting of Guru Nanak and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Yeah.
But the verses of these other saints like Namdev, Farid, Kabir, Thanna are contained in sizable numbers. Many of them sizable, some just 1 or 2. In the Adi Granth or the Guru Granth Sahib now.
And they also say that the vocabulary used in his writings, in his hymns, there's a lot of mixing from the Upanishads and other texts, because he didn't believe in this differentiation of Hindu and Muslim. He believed in human. Just like he said God was one, he said people are one. They can't be.
Absolutely. He said if there is one divine creator and he has created everybody, how could he differentiate?
Yes.
So, and he believed that every faith is essentially good. And he traveled all around the world, as much of the world that was possible to be traveled.
We'll come back to that.
We'll come back to the travels.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, what does Vaheguru mean?
Praise to the Lord.
Praise to the Lord. Okay. Yeah. Because that's said a lot, in prayers and recitation. Yeah. Why did you choose to write on Nanak?
Well, to be honest, this was, I was asked to write.
Okay.
I was asked to write by Penguin at that time.
Right.
They had done a series on Indian gods. Then they started a series on Indian saints.
Right.
And they approached me to write a short book on Nanak. And the brief was that it should be, the stress has to be on the narrative.
Right.
So that anybody, not necessarily somebody who knows about Guru Nanak or somebody who belongs to the Sikh faith, so to speak, but anybody who's interested would be able to make sense of it. And I hope that the book served its purpose, considering it's almost a quarter century old.
Yes. And I think, in line with what you've just said, I also want to clarify the reason to reach out to you was because of Nanak, not because you're Sikh, in particular. So it's because he's my favorite. So yes, I noticed something which was very interesting. Like a lot of other people, I'm assuming, non-Sikhs predominantly, we think or we've thought that Gurpurab, which comes in November, approximately 10 days after Diwali, is when it is Guru Nanak Dev Ji's birthday. But in your book, I read that that's actually not his birthday. It's when he received enlightenment, and he has a different birthday. Would you want to talk about that?
Well, you see, when you approach Guru Nanak's life, there is an extreme paucity of exact historical detail.
Right.
He wrote nothing about his own life in that sense, except, say, mentioning what he saw in Babur's invasion. There are no exact records of his time which we can get our hands on about his life. There are no eyewitnesses who left notes and things like that. So this is a matter of some controversy. But according to one of the Janam Sakhis, there are four broad traditions of Janam Sakhis or hagiographies or stories which have come down, and that's another subject altogether as to which one came from where. But the Puratan Janam Sakhi, if I'm not wrong, which is one broad tradition, places his birthday in Baisakh, which is April. And then, you calculate back from the day of his death, and sort of there is a mention that he lived 70 years and so many months and so many days, and therefore you come to the conclusion that it was Baisakh. And it was celebrated in Baisakh, in April, for a very long time. Even in Maharaja Ranjit Singh's time, in 1815, for instance, it was celebrated in Nankana Sahib, which was his birthplace, or which is the shrine, which is where he was born. The village was called Talwandi, Rai Poedi Talwandi. And after that, at some stage, it shifted to November.
Right.
Now, scholars give different reasons. One reason is that the farmers used to be busy with their harvest in April, and they preferred November when they were done and they had money and etc. to go and celebrate. And the other reason the scholars give, which sounds a little more logical, is that his enlightenment, the day of his enlightenment, was in November. So they moved it to November, the celebration.
But you have
on the
date. Kartik Purnima. But you have a date for April, 15th of April.
That's again a calculation backwards from his 70 years and so many months and so many days.
Right.
So, you will find there a lot of very serious scholarly work has been done on Guru Nanak. But again, these are based on a combination of a close study of the Janamsakhis, a close study of local traditions, local shrines, to string together. Some people have drawn atlases of his travels. I don't know how, but by a combination of all this. So you will find this, there is always a question mark, but this is again a fairly logical thing which has been arrived on a certain scholarly basis. And the reason for November is also the Kartik Purnima, because that is when he came out with his enlightenment. So today it's November.
Oh, okay. Again, much to my surprise, he was a householder, a married man with 2 sons, an elder sister who was named Nanki.
Right.
I love that ring to that name, Nanki. I believe she adored him and he loved his sister. And he had 2 companions, Bala and Mardana. There's a lot of talk about them because they accompanied him on all his travels. I was also very curious to read about his dressing style, his outfits. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Okay, but let's rewind to the householder bit.
Yes.
He was a householder, and that is part of his teachings.
You don't have to renounce.
No, he believed that, again, if we weave it together, that affirmation of creation is a very important aspect of his teachings.
Right.
That creation is real, and we must be part of it. Creation is done by the Creator. So if there is a Creator, then the creation is real, and this is it. We deal with it. You don't deal with it by running away from it.
Right. Okay.
So he was against renunciation. He was against going off to the mountains and the caves and the forests and leaving the family and living on alms. And he said, no, that is not that is not a respect to the creation of the Creator. So you have to live in this world and live above the shallows of this world, above the sins of this world. And he mentions it. We don't have time to go into all the details, but he has a conversation with the Siddhas in the mountains. And he has several conversations, but there is in one Janamsakhi the very evocative conversation with the 84 Siddhs sitting in the snowy mountains, and he goes and travels to them. And they ask him, how does the world go down there? He says, how can the world go if all the wise men have run away? So it's a mess out there.
Yeah.
And therefore, he encapsulates his conversations in a beautiful narrative called the Siddh Gosht. And it's all in music and beautiful. And there it talks about that, like a lotus lives above the mud and the slush, like a duck swims through water without getting wet, in that sense. That is how man has to go through this existence without soiling oneself. And you have to cross this ocean of time like that without getting enmeshed in the dirt. That is the way, the righteous living. Affirmation of the creation. So he was a householder.
And it makes a lot of sense because, as you say, this is where we need it more than in the mountains.
Exactly.
Because there's hell happening on earth.
Yeah.
And that's where you need to guide people, channel people.
Yes.
And interesting aspect that you mentioned, that you don't have to soil yourself.
Yeah.
In doing so.
Right.
It's very similar to what the Upanishads say. The Vedas say the same thing.
Quite right.
That you don't have to sit in the mountains and, be a monk.
Yeah.
You got to go through life and be above board.
That's right. The clothing, there are various versions, but you find them in old historians have written about this.
Right.
So you will find references to the fact that he didn't see himself belonging to a sect. He was a universal man.
Well.
And he was traveling to be able to find out what's happening, what's going wrong, to have discourses, to have dialogue, with holy men, wise men in different places, belonging to different faiths.
Which confused a lot of people because they couldn't figure whether he was Hindu or what.
Well, he, according to one description, he used to wear a robe like a Muslim darwish, but which was of, the red ochre color of the Hindu sannyasi. And he would wear a white cloth belt, and he would wear a short kalandar cap like a Sufi, and a little turban. There are some old pictures, we don't have a picture, but there are old imaginations of Nanak which show a flat turban. And he would often wear wooden sandals, and one would be of one color, sometimes one would be of another color. It is said that sometimes he wore a necklace of bones to show, the evanescence of life. Then again, when he went to the mountains, it is said that because of the weather, he wore leather on his feet, and he tied a rope around his body to protect against the cold. When he went to Mecca, Medina, he dressed like a Haji. It is said of the time, a kind of a light blue robe. He carried a prayer rug.
So there was a messaging in there as well.
Yeah. He carried a prayer rug. He carried the Kalandar's bowl. Yeah. He carried a stick.
So be human, behave human, dress human. There is no such thing as belongs to this religion and that religion. We have found and created these divisions.
He didn't want to be boxed into anything.
Unbelievable that, he was born 5.5 centuries ago. It just feels like maybe 100 years, like a more recent saint. He's so fresh in the memory.
This is a very important point. Because very often we think of him, I'm glad you're thinking the other way. Very often we think of him, Guru Nanak is an old figure, and so his message may not be relevant today. When I started writing the book, I used to sit in the library in India Habitat Center, and I looked out of the window. And I wrote that in my introduction, because when I looked out of the window, I could see the Lodi tombs. And the Lodis were ruling India or Hindustan when Nanak was born and living. And if you look the other side, you can see the dome of Humayun. So Humayun was trying to get back his kingdom just when Guru Nanak had passed away. And if you looked further down, you could still see the Qutub Minar. Nowadays, of course, because of the pollution and because of the high buildings, you may not be able to see it. But 25 years ago, you could see it. You could see the Qutub Minar. And the Qutub Minar, which we consider today a picnic spot, and right there, is 200 years before Guru Nanak.
Oh.
You never think of Christopher Columbus as being ancient, but it was the same time. You never think of Magellan going around the earth as ancient. It was the same time. Vasco da Gama, same time.
Right.
So, he's a recent figure.
Can we talk about his travels? Because it's not just India, Himachal Pradesh and Jammu and Kashmir where he traveled, but Nepal, Baghdad, Syria, Turkey, Palestine, Pakistan now. There's like 2 decades and 4 very long journeys.
It is a very unique example of spiritual wanderlust. He just wanted to wander and to talk and to meet people and to see, and that was his way of passing the message. We must remember that those were not days of quick travel.
No.
What you can do today in 6-8 hours would take you 6 months, because it was all on foot. There are various versions about his travel. And of course, before I go there, most of the Janam Sakhis don't talk of Bala.
Yes,
it's
I know.
Only Mardana. There's one school, which is the Bala Janam Sakhi, in which Bala is a figure. But in the others, there's only one companion, the Muslim Rababi, Mardana.
Rabab.
Yeah. So, again, the journeys have been described differently. Some Janam Sakhi said 2 journeys, some say 3. The broadly accepted figure is 4. in different directions. Maybe because it coincides with 4 directions, so it's easier to explain. So yes, he goes down to modern, what is today Sri Lanka. He goes east up to Assam. He goes west right up to Mecca. And some people have projected, although nobody's really come out with a convincing evidence, that he goes to Palestine and Turkey and Syria. But certainly Mecca, everybody accepts. On the way back, Baghdad. And then through north, what was Hindustan and, what today falls into Pakistan, like Hassan Abdal, and where is Punjab today, etc. His last journey, or his third Udasi, is considered to be to the north, which is all over Himachal and Ladakh. Some say into Tibet, certainly into Sikkim and Nepal. And, right up to Mount Kailash and all through, what we call today UP or Uttarakhand and all that. Because this is all substantiated by local tradition.
Right.
There are local shrines. If you go to Kathmandu, you will find a Gurdwara on top of the hill. There's a stone imprint of his feet.
It's very sweet the way they dress, and they call him Nanak Rishi.
Nanak Rishi, Rinpoche.
By the way, Rinpoche means the reincarnate one.
Yeah, the reincarnate one in Tibet and Bhutan. Nanak Rishi. So, the fact is, he did travel. And there are local traditions. And again, as we said, it's just 550 years. So it's not 5,000 years ago that we're talking of. So it's not mythology. It's 550 years, which means there are local traditions, there are local shrines, there are local oral histories which have come down the generations. So you find impressions. You find the impression in Punjab, in Hassan Abdal. You find the impressions in Ladakh about one stone where there is an impression of the ogre. In Punjab, there's an impression of his hand. After about 22, 23 years, again, he did settle down in Kartarpur and restarted his life as a householder.
But you mentioned, and I'm going back a step, you said that there's no description or record of how he looked. But the photographs that we see of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, I have to say, I don't know if that was real or it's somebody's imagination. They are absolutely divine. He's got the most divine halo around him, the most soulful eyes, compassionate face, and you can just see he's one with the divine. It's just, when they use the word pious, it's so befitting. So whoever's drawn that image of him has conveyed the message.
Yes, but again, it can't be pure imagination. Must have been some descriptions, must have been some recordings of some form which we don't have track of. And then, of course, I think what you see reflected in the pictures or the photograph or the paintings, rather, not photographs, I think is a reflection of his teaching.
Should we spend a bit of time talking about his teachings? Sure. Which are very, very, very relevant.
I think we have already covered several, but yes, we could. I think it's a fairly simple teachings, and they're all encapsulated, even in the Japji.
Could you just explain what the Japji?
Japji is a very deep narrative written by Guru Nanak. One of the few things which is not said to music but it tells you it goes to the heart of creation, the creator, the nature of the world. It's a deeply spiritual, long prayer. He talks about the nature of creation. There's one divine creator. He is self-existent. He is immortal in that sense that, he is beyond time. He is true before, he is true later. And again, the nature of creation. The unity of man is what you derive from there. The equality of man. The affirmation of creation. The emptiness of ritualism.
Yes.
Right.
Despised black magic and ritual.
Of course.
Superstition.
Yeah. And there, you see a lot of that played out in the Janam Sakis through Mardana. Mardana is a very convenient figure in the Janam Sakis. And, he creates a lot of situations in which allows Guru Nanak to then expound what he believes.
My favorite teaching, and I would like to share that with my viewers, especially the non-Sikh viewers, is Kirt Karo, which is work, do deeds, service, Naam Japo, which is meditate on his name, and Chakho, which means charity and share your earnings.
Share in charity. When he set up, as a householder, he set up a community of householders. And people came to him. It was not a monastic order. It was a brotherhood. Because they were all household.
Right.
And they worked the fields. And then in the evenings, they would sit together and sing the praise of God, which began the tradition of the Kirtan. Because the Kirtan, everybody again sits together. Everybody is contemplating on one God, one Creator. It brings in a sense of contemplation, meditation, and equality.
Equality.
Not just in the moment, but in society.
And I also read in your book that Langar
started, yes,
as a tradition from Kartarpur. And
yes.
To be fair, I always thought of Langars as Sikhs being very generous, and feeding everybody and anybody who comes. But there is a message behind that as well.
Of course.
That everybody will eat the same food, and you will eat together.
Yes.
So again, we're all one.
And that is hitting straight at caste. He had people who were carpenters, who were ironsmiths, who were cobblers.
And of different faith.
Who were Muslims, Hindus. If you sit together and eat, that's it. There can be no greater equality. So it said Sangat and Pangat. Pangat is the line of the Langar. And Sangat is the congregation of the Kirtan. So Sangat and Pangat both started in Kartarpur. And that's a great tradition. And today it manifests itself.
I noticed something which I think is worth talking about. And that is that when his time came and he thought of the successor, like most would turn, he didn't turn to his sons. Instead, he chose Lena, who he then was actually a devotee of goddess Durga, as your book says. And he renamed him Angad, which means a
part of the body, yes.
And then he went on to become Guru Angad Dev Ji. So I think this is a very important lesson for all of us here, that succession should be based on meritocracy and not DNA.
Yes.
In your case, it's been a both, because your parents writers,
you cannot talk of me in the same breath. Yes.
Yeah, but and they were Sahitya Academy Award winners, and so are you, which I think in your case it's obviously a coincidence. That's not the reason why you won the award. But I think it's so important because it's also about being detached, not from worldly pleasures, but this whole sense of me.
Yes.
And what I own and what I have.
I think that he felt that Guru Angad or Lena would be the right person to take forward his message. And this did go on. At some stage you find later, there is a kind of succession which comes in. For instance, the 10th Guru is the son of the 9th Guru and things. But again, it's not always the eldest son.
Right, okay.
That also doesn't happen.
Okay.
So yes, it is again based entirely on qualifications, on merit, and the right person to take forward the message.
Right, yeah. As we draw close, because it's been fascinating talking to you, I would want to make, this is a personal observation, but I do want to say that when it comes to the art of giving, I don't think there's anybody more adept at this in the Sikh community, because they're always there at the forefront. It could be a climatic catastrophe. We saw it during COVID. We saw when students were stranded overseas. Anything which is to do with helping mankind, you will always find the Sikh community there at the front. So
yes, seva is a very important aspect, service. And that comes out of sharing and the traditions that were set from that time. So, people, there's a very big tradition in Sikhism of people going and serving food in gurdwaras, taking part in serving the langar, taking part in taking care of the shoes. And people do it sometimes as penance, sometimes as service. But the sharing that you've talked about, I think that shows the importance of the community aspect of Sikhism. Community is not restricted to Sikhs alone. Community is the human community. And if there is a calamity, you come with whatever you can, whether it's service, money, charity, contribution, effort. So you've seen it in COVID, you've seen it in earthquakes and floods, wherever there is. And this is something to be very proud of, honestly, as a community. Yeah. I think, and something which, really goes to the heart of the faith, that this is what it is all about.
And people are upholding it. That, I think, is remarkable. Well, I think even if they're not following all his teachings, but this is a huge part of doing seva. As they would say in Vedas, karma, your days.
Yeah.
These are all interconnected. To do good, to be righteous, to do the right thing, help people, in need.
It's essential humanity. Yeah. So,
and that's what he believed in.
That's what he did.
Yeah. I wondered if you can share some of his very famous stories, the Mecca and his feet, and my favorite, the Saptera.
The Mecca story is when he goes to Mecca and he has a long journey, he goes by boat to Jeddah, and then they walk with the Hajis and with the caravans, and they reach Mecca, and he's very tired and he lies down, and his feet evidently are pointing at the Kaaba. And then there is a Muslim Maulvi, a Qazi, who comes and berates him that what is this you're doing? Your feet are pointing towards the house of God.
Being disrespectful.
Yeah. So, according to the Janam Sakhi, Guru Nanak says that, okay, why don't you move my feet where there is no God? So when he moves his feet, the Kaaba moves. So again, these are stories to tell you. What does that story tell you? The story tells you that God is omnipresent.
Yes.
So these are stories, and the
Saptera.
So Nanak went to his sister's house, and there he impressed Daulat Khan Lodi enough he was given a job as a storekeeper, or it's called the Modi Khana, where he, a lot of the revenue was collected in terms of grain, and a lot of salaries were paid out in terms of grain also. There was a lot of weighing, etc. So he used to weigh and give amounts. And even weighing, when he reached the figure 13, which is Tera, he just stopped and he kept saying Tera, 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 because Tera also means yours.
Yours.
So he says, everything is yours.
Which is also my birth date. So I always tell people that story, Saptera, and when they did the balance sheet at the end.
Yeah, there's there was a canard that he's cheating and he's giving away stuff to people for free, etc. So there was a sort of audit. And they found that all the books were perfectly in order.
So that was Nanak for you. I know I keep saying we're drawing a close, but there's just so much to talk about him. There are two stories, quick ones, and then we wrap up. One is when and where and how did he receive enlightenment? Could you briefly talk about that?
So when he was in Sultanpur, and he used to go and bathe in it in the early mornings. So one day when he went, he left his clothes on the banks of the rivulet, and he went and he did not come out. And then people said that they thought he's drowned. And after 3 days, Nanak reappeared. And it is believed that that was the time when he received his enlightenment from the Creator. And he was silent for a very long time. And then he says, there is no Hindu, there is no Muslim.
Those were his first words.
Yes, and that is the Janam Sakhi of enlightenment, where he says there is no Hindu, there is no Muslim, so man is equal.
They say he spent his last 18 years in Kartarpur, which is where he passed. Another reason why that's so significant. Could you just tell us about his passing story? Because
that's right. Yes. So, when he started this householder community in Kartarpur, Langar, Kirtan, and so on. And at some stage, again, this is what has come down to us, is that he believed that his time has come, as in mortal form, to depart this earth. And he went and sat under an acacia tree, and the tree, which was just branches, began to bloom like spring, and then he lay down, drew a sheet over himself, and his followers were there, Muslims and Hindus and everybody. And then as they sang the Soila, the Kirtan Soila, which is one of his verses, a series of verses, which even now is sung either as the last prayer of the night, or when somebody passes away, it's always it's part of that. And then he gave up his bodily form. And then, of course, there is the argument between Hindus and Muslims that we want to cremate him, no, we want to bury him. And then they decide that each of the groups will put flowers on both sides, and whosoever flowers are fresh in the morning will win. In the morning, they find that under the sheet there are only flowers, and that's it, and that's why they say Nanak Shah Fakir, Hindu ka Guru, Musliman ka Peer.
So even when he left this world,
he was true to his message.
True to his message, and he gave a message even then, that listen, we're all one.
We are all.
As I draw close, I want to quote from Ambassador Sarna's book that Guru Nanak Dev Ji was a harbinger of social, spiritual, and religious enlightenment. He was a redeemer of all ills, a righteous man who promoted community service, equality across the board, not just between the genders, but also amongst human beings. It's been an absolute delight to have read your book. It was smooth, one of the smoothest storytelling that I've read in a while.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.